Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. In this video I have for you game 1 of a best of 3 between Herr and Underthesea in the quarterfinals of Season 7 of the Steel Division 2 League. Today they are playing on Tannenburg, and on our left in the red team, playing on the allied side, we have Herr using the 8th Indian Infantry and the Maverick deployment type. And on our right in the blue team, playing on the Axis side, we have Underthesea using the 11th SS Freiwilligen Panzergrenadier Nordland and the Maverick deployment type. So Herr, a well-known name, has been around for a very long time now in the Steel Division community. He is a veteran of the competitive scene. He played in Steel Division Normandy 44, now plays in Steel Division 2 very well, and has made it to the finals in Season 7, so good job by him. But he's going to be going up against Underthesea, which is finalist from both Season 5 and Season 6. Underthesea was beaten though, however, by Gonzo and Nilla in those finals, so this time around Underthesea is going to be looking to win it himself. The matchup we have is actually really awesome. Herr with the 8th Indian Infantry is a division that I actually haven't casted yet in a competitive setting. It does have some nice light vehicles in the form of like the Humber Mark IV here. We've also got the auto cars that are kind of unique to this division in the early game there. So Herr actually going to be bringing those in. And the 11th SS, of course, is the division with the Arados. The jet bombers has some decent armored cars early on, like the SPW231 and the Puma here. Let's have a look at what's going down. So on the top, it's going to be 2 Indian field engineers with an Indian scout. There's going to be an Indian Vickers HMG following that up. 2 Humber Mark IVs, 2 SP Autocar M3s, and then following those up is what looks like 3 Gurkhas rifles, 2 Indian rifles, and an Indian rifle leader. There's going to be another Indian Scout and Indian Vickers there with the Humber Mark IV. There's going to be 5 Indian Field Engineers heading into the centre with an Indian rifle. On the bottom side, 2 more Indian Field Engineers with the Vickers HMG Indian Scouts. Going to also be the Autocar M3, another Vickers HMG Indian rifle, and the 17-pounder on the bottom side there. On the top, Underthesea's moved into the town with 3 Panzergrenadiers, which aren't very well supported. SPW331 actually heading up to the top side with the Panzergren, IG33 and Flak 36 heading into that tree line, and the Stug there in the open. We're going to see a Hurricane coming in early on, in fact. That's going to be looking for the bombing strike. These Hurricane Mark IVs are actually really nice because they're a bit more resilient than standard Hurricanes, since they have a metal frame, I believe. So yeah, they have the extra resilience, allows them to shrug off a bit more AA. Bombing strike unfortunately whiffed there as the Panzergrens were already falling back, but Underthesea already under pressure on that top side. In the mid, looks like he brought in 3 Pioneers. It's going to be the 3 Flammenwerfer Panzergren MG42 and the SPW231. Also Jagdpanzer Su-76 there at the back. MG has already been forced out of position on the bottom side and killed off. And then there's also the Panzergren here with the Puma at the back. So, yeah, off to an explosive start with Herr really pushing hard with his Indian rifles. The Indian rifles do have really awesome uniforms. Very thematic. Not just name. They do also, of course, have their uniforms. And then we have the Gurkhas here. The Gurkhas are actually pretty cool because they have 3 Thompsons as their submachine guns, but here comes the Arado with the bombing strike. Well, goodbye to those Indian rifles. One of the Gurkhas there left with 1 man. Humber Mark IV going to be engaging that Panzergren on the bottom side of the town. Also going to be seeing a Hurricane bomb on the bottom side, pushing back these Panzergrens. So Herr off to a pretty good start here in this engagement, has traded pretty well against Underthesea's infantry, and if he can claim both of these flags, it's actually going to push him to a 15-9 early on, which in a Maverick engagement is actually really nice. Because both of the players, they have the same income, so it's all about just trading well and making sure that you get value out of your units. The Humber Mark IV there is going to go down to what I assume was the Stug 4. Another Humber Mark IV going to be going down there as well. I think the Autocar looking for the engagement, but Herr throwing away 3 armoured vehicles there to that Stug in quick succession. Here comes all of the Indian field engineers pushing through the middle here against the Flammenwerfer. One nice thing would be if Underthesea can manage this properly, he can use the Flammenwerfer squads to soak up the HE from the Indian field engineers and allow his pioneers to win those engagements, because the beauty of the pioneers against Indian field engineers is that the pioneers have 10 men, and that means that the pioneers can one-shot a field engineer, whereas the pioneers take at least 2 HE grenades or TNT to destroy or to kill. Indian rifles, though, going to be going down. The Jagdpanzer has done a number on those Indian rifles. The new MG42 is arriving to help take them out, but things have completely swung around. This offensive by Underthesea in the mid here has left Herr Robert in a bit of a predicament, has lost 2 flags in the center of the map, and things have just turned around to 13-11. AT gun goes down before it's unloaded to the Su-76. That was a mistake there from Herr Robert. Starting to feel the pressure as Underthesea is making his plays. MG42 opening up onto the Vickers. MG42s should beat Vickers cover to cover, like if they're in equal cover. And Puma's also helping out there, so that Vickers is likely to go down very shortly. But Herr Robert still has dominance in the top side at least, so this is somewhere where he can really solidify some flags if he manages to get rid of the remaining Panzergrenadiers. These Panzergrenadiers do have the 2-star veterancy now though, and with that MG42 they can do a lot of damage. One of the Indian field engineers surrounded completely. Won't matter too much because they do have the Raider trait, which means that they don't suffer from extra suppression from being behind enemy lines, but I don't think it's really going to help them get any kills either because there's only 2 men left. The 231 here getting some good damage in down the road, and the Stug 3 with its machine gun, with its HE also doing a good amount of damage as well, and has already picked up those 3 armoured kills, let's not forget. IG-33 has found line of sight. What is that firing at? Wow, that went a long way, shooting all the way at the Autocar M3 at the back there. Indian rifles have been brought in to kind of stem the salient here from Underthesea, just make sure that he's not getting this flag for free. But can't really do much about the 231 here with the Indian rifles because they have no AT, so that's something he's got to be kind of worried about. He will definitely need to rely on something like the Humber Mark IV, or maybe a Sherman, or maybe an AT gun or something. AT gun's less likely because at that close range the 231 might actually kill a AT gun. The Hurricane might also be a good choice, in fact. These bombs can be good enough to kill 231. Is AA on the top side? Will it stop the bombing strikes onto the Stug 4? Doesn't look like it. 2 bombing strikes coming in. Oh, one actually went for the Schwedenzug. Instead, I expected that to be a double bombing strike onto the Stug 4, but never mind. Takes the recon out of the equation and damages the Stug for a bombing strike in the future. So Sherman 5 has been brought up on the bottom side. That's going to be engaging the Puma and taking it out. Very nicely done. These Humber Mark IVs, I was just thinking, they're actually a really nice counter to these sort of light armoured vehicles. They do lack armour themselves, so technically the 231 can kill a Humber Mark IV quite well, but the 70mm penetration makes their AP round quite reliable in penetrating those light armoured vehicles. Arado coming in again for its second bombing strike. See if it is effective. Takes out one of the Gurkha's rifles, leaves the other with 2 men remaining. Another Gurkha rifle goes down in the open. We'll be seeing Indian rifles trying to take out some units in the middle. Here comes the Humber Mark IV. Going to be engaging the 231. Can it find the kill? Got to be careful here. The Panzergrenadier is sneaking up. He's not going to know that's there. Pioneer's actually managed to surrender one of the Indian rifles. That's not good. And now the Panzergrenadier coming into line of sight any second. Goodbye Humber Mark IV. Indian rifles once again left isolated there against a superior force. MG42 does go down on the bottom side to the Sherman 5. And in the town, the Sherman 5 starting to deal with the SBW 231. We'll still need to be careful of the Stug 4 though. Stug 4 does have the 100mm of frontal armor, which does make it a little bit more difficult for the Sherman to penetrate at close range. Usually a Sherman at close range would be able to deal with like a Stug 3 for example, but the Stug 4 makes it just that little bit harder. Nice kill though onto the Autocar M3 though from Underthesea. And so far, like whilst Underthesea has kind of relinquished some ground on the bottom side, he's managing to hold on with this single Panzergrenadier here, which is stopping the capture on both of these flags. Mark IV is going to go down. Was that to the 231? It might have been. This middle section though, for Underthesea, it's a little precarious here because technically if the Indian field engineers manage to connect with either side here, it would end up surrounding the troops that were pushed forwards and therefore take away their effect on the front line. But a good surrender there onto the Indian rifles at least. German 5 coming up. Does need to be very careful. He's seen the Panzergrenadier now. He knows it's there. Just got to be super careful with this. This Panzergrenadier trying to sneak up on the other Humber Mark IV. And what looked like a really strong start for Herr Robert has started to dwindle a little bit here as the Pioneer does surrender another unit. And this middle push from Underthesea was absolutely devastating for Herr Robert. And there goes the Humber Mark IV, Hurricane Mark IV coming in for the bombing strike, looking for the Panzergrenadiers. And does a decent amount of damage. Leaves them low, that's for sure. But now Herr Robert has to find a way to get back control of the close range. And currently, if he keeps throwing in Indian rifles against Pioneers, he's just going to lose his Indian rifle squads over and over again until the Pioneers run out of bundle grenades, which is not really a way that you want to deal with that. And this Indian Bofors actually being fired at directly by these machine guns is really bad news for Herr Robert. That's not cheap. If that goes down, it could leave him very vulnerable to more Arados throughout the game. Like having these Bofors on the field is important to stop the Arados from having the effect further up. But I think what Herr Robert's doing here is nice at the moment. Using the Boston, using the Hurricane Mark IVs to get the bombing strikes in is a very effective way of cleaning up this infantry without having to engage it directly. And even if he doesn't get the kill here, it still allows the Indian rifles to potentially move up and surrender these units. So here the Indian rifle will most likely spot and surrender the Panzergrenadier, which is a good catch because it allows the Sherman 5 to move a lot more freely and basically allows the Sherman 5 to provide fire support at close range against units like the Pioneers that don't have AT. Because between all of the infantry here, the only AT is the Panzergrenadier. All these Pioneers can't deal with the Sherman 5. So this could be a way for Herr Robert here to clean up this very deep push that Underthesea has made into Herr Robert's lines. So these Indian rifles and Gherkins rifles just all on return fire at the moment. Herr Robert not wanting to be pushed out of that position just yet. Another Boston coming in. Gets a clean kill onto the Pioneer on the hill. It's good. Now the Indian rifles surely going to be looking for the remainder of the units here. As it seems this has all almost been cleaned up. Sherman 5 moving close with a quick hunt command. Should be able to get the machine guns on target of the Pioneer. And then can look for the surrender. But ultimately that Sherman 5 will be wanting to get the kill onto the 231. So that the Indian rifles can also start moving more freely. Panzergrenadiers with the MG26 actually winning an engagement on the top side there and getting surrendered. That Indian Vicar HMG is in a bit of a strange spot. It can probably do some pinning there to the Panzergren, but the closer the Panzergren gets, the worse the Vickers going to do, because the Vickers won't be able to actually engage. Sherman 5 there cleans up the 231. Indian rifles are taking damage, but most of the pioneers have been dealt with now. Only one squad left with 3 men available. Robert just needs to make sure that he doesn't sacrifice his Sherman 5 to this Panzerschreck that has now been spotted by the Indian scouts, so hopefully you will have seen that there. So Pack 40 on the top side, going to be starting to aim at these Indian rifles. Will it be able to get the clean shot? Yes, it will. Indian rifles go down. And Herr Robert's going to be pinging that for a future bombing strike potentially, or maybe some artillery. He has brought in some off-map, and that's going to be hitting Underthesea here on this top side flag. Underthesea is still actually sitting on the advantage, as he has taken the offensive flag in the centre here from Herr Robert. Focke-Wulf 190 was being brought in to attack the Hurricane Mark IV, but smart move by Underthesea to make sure that falls back, because the Indian Bofors here would have done a decent chunk of damage against the Focke-Wulf. The Schwiedenzug, pretty low. Might get taken out by the Indian rifles, especially if the Panzerguns are pinned down. Gurkha's rifles have been taken out there by the 259. Now we see the Hurricanes coming in. The Hurricane attacking the IG-33 probably won't make it, but this one should be able to get the bombing strike onto the back 40 at least. And that's a nice clean kill there for the Hurricane Mark IV. But the Focke-Wulf is on the tail. These Hurricane Mark IVs might be resilient, but not resilient enough to get away from a Focke-Wulf. Nicely done on the bottom side though from Herr Robert. Finds and takes out the lone Panzergren that was stopping the cap onto 2 flags here. And that was really nicely done. Like, it's quite often that a player will be kind of passive in this situation, and I think honestly Herr Robert maybe was for a little bit too long already, but he managed to identify that there wasn't much here by just moving an infantry squad forwards, and that's given him 2 flags, so nicely done. Panzerschreck still hanging about here, very sneaky. Indian rifles haven't managed to find it. Boston, trying to come in for the bombing strike, is going to get forced back by the 88, although I say that, the bombs did get dropped. That's going for the MG here. Look at that bomb spread. A perfect square around the MG42. So 14-10 now in favour of Herr Robert. And Underthesea still behind on tickets, even though he had a very nice push in the centre here, but that's now been broken down thanks to the airstrikes from Herr Robert. It reminds me actually of the song I did for Christmas once, the rap in Steel Division Normandy 44. I think there was a line where I talked about Herr Robert with Hurricanes and how it's like his playstyle more specifically, and well, nothing's changed. Herr Robert here with the Hurricane Mark IVs doing plenty of damage. 259 is going to go down to the Sherman 5s as they start being brought up. Stug 3 in the open at range should actually be able to deal with the Sherman 5s quite nicely, so Robert's got to be careful here. Like a 2-star Stug gets some serious rate of fire. It's like 7 round per minute rate of fire base. A couple of veterancy, it's going to be up to almost 9 round per minute rate of fire, I think. And then you're looking at those Sherman 5s going down very quickly to that 135mm of penetration. Focke-Wulfs coming in to try and intercept these bombers, and one of them is going to go down. Is he going to be able to find the second? Probably not, although I say that this Focke-Wulf has managed to avoid the eyes of the Bofors, and that's now 2 Bostons going down. Underthesea is starting to get the better of Herr Robert's airplanes, which is pretty important here, I think. Those planes so far have been really influential in Herr Robert's leads on the map. And he's going to try and get rid of the 88 so that he can continue to use them. But with those 2 bombers going down, honestly, it's going to be hard for him to get decent value out of his bombers in the future, because unless he can have like a critical mass of bombers where they don't get shot down by AA and stuff, he is going to be in a bad spot whenever he brings one in. And there is now like 2 88s on the map. There is 2 Flak 36s. He's got the Focke-Wulfs under the sea, and he's been using them very well so far. Bombing strike coming in there for the Indian Rifles. Goodbye to them. And that's going to give the flag straight back to Under the Sea, putting him back in the lead in flags, 13 to 11. What a back and forth this has been so far. Well, but the Stug 4 is going to go down. It did cost the gun jam of one of those Sherman 5s. Is the off-map going to finish the job on the 88? Possibly. Only one man left. There's like 1 strength left on that 88. Small breeze could kill that right now. This one is also pretty low right now. Is that the Indian Scouts? Yeah, the Indian Scouts have managed to find the 88 and are going to be taking that out probably. One more shot. There you go. 88 is taken care of. Very nice indeed. And with that done, Hurricane Mark IV's coming straight in on the bottom side to capitalize on the lack of AA. But he is going to, of course, bump into the 37. That is probably going to make one of the Hurricanes fall back, but the second should be able to get through. MG42 goes down. Mortar fire also coming in. Going to be the first artillery pieces, other than off-map, like direct fire, like on-map artillery pieces that we've seen in the tournament so far. It's actually quite rare in 1v1 to see mortars or artillery in general, because it takes so long to find value in a game. But I think 81mm mortars are a good example of something that can be super strong in a 1v1, because you're unlikely to get counter batteried by your opponent due to there not being generally any AA anyway. And also 81mm mortars are really good for pinning down infantry in sort of close range engagements, giving infantry that doesn't usually have a close range advantage an advantage because it's attacking units that are already pinned down. In this case, the 81mm mortar going to kill the 37 as well. Nicely done. Panzergrenadiers going to be engaging the Indian Field Engineers here. Panther D. Yeah, these Panthers have now come in, and it's not good news. Like the obviously the Sherman going down there to the Panther D, not really much it can do in that engagement, but 17-pounder has found eyes on one of Under the Sea's Panther Ds. Losing that here in the late game is not good news, because we have moved in to the low income territory for these Maverick divisions. Both players going to be playing with 80 points per minute, which is the equivalent of like 4 infantry squads at 20 points. I think these Indian Rifles, are they 20 points? Yeah, so Herr Robert can bring in 4 Indian Rifles every tick. Whereas Under the Sea can probably bring in like 2 standard Panzergrenadiers. Or 4 Panzergrenadiers. Sorry, I guess 3 Panzergrenadiers with MG26s. I thought those Panzergrenadiers with MG26s were only 20 points, but I think that's if they don't have a Panzerfaust. Ooh, 17-pounder there, popping an infantry squad in the open. Not what you want to see. Transport snipes are not what you want to see at this point in the game. They can be quite costly. But Indian Rifles are pushing forwards here. They are bumping into an abundance of Sturm Pioneers. Bombing Strike is going to be able to reply on the Flammenwerfer, but I can't help think that it might have been better to have the Hurricane stay back. Oh, Focke-Wulf there, maybe overcommitting for the Hurricane, but with a second Focke-Wulf coming in, distracts the Bofors. The Bofors wasn't given an attack order, so it didn't keep shooting at the same Focke-Wulf. Which was just as well, because that Focke-Wulf was looking to strafe the 17-pounder and probably would have done quite a lot of damage. Gurkha's Rifles now engaging Sturm Pioneers. The Gurkha's Rifles, as I mentioned before, do have 3 Thompson submachine guns. So their close range capability is actually not too bad. So you can see it has managed to chunk through at least one of those Sturm Pioneers. But the Gurkhas there now pinned down and falling back. Boston on the bottom side is going to be able to get an easy bombing strike in, since the AA here has been taken out, both the 88 and the 37. Now the Hirado coming in easily drops the bomb before the AA is engaging, and say goodbye to the 17 pounder. There it goes. So these Gurkhas, the reason that's not surrendering is because they are fanatical. The Stern Pioneer is just having to kill them off completely in order to deal with them. Meanwhile, Herr Robert's trying to land some mortar fire to help pin down the Stern Pioneers and keep his Gurkhas alive. Also now see a mortar on the top side that's going to be trying to engage some of the support weapons from under the sea. And if Herr Robert can keep up the pressure here, these mortars could really be invaluable throughout the rest of this game. The nice thing about artillery is, like, the longer it is on the field, the more value it gets. So if he can maintain this mortar fire by bringing in some extra supply for them, then he'll be able to whittle down the forces of Under the Sea without actually having to invest any new points onto the map. One of the Shermans did just go down here. I believe that probably took a shell from the 88. That's the only thing that likely would have had line of sight. On the bottom, 259 coming in. Going to be trying to push on to this infantry without the 17 pounder here, actually. This 259 could do a lot of damage because the Gurkha's rifles, their AT weapon is at close range. It's 100 meters. So the 259 can easily sit out of range of that and just kill all of this stuff very quickly. The 17 pounder here might be able to be moved to get line of sight onto the 259, but we'll have to wait and see. Indian rifles on the bottom side, are they going to be found by the Sturm Pioneers? Yes, they are. Yeah, Robert's just got to hope that they don't get pushed into the other Sturm Pio. It doesn't look like they did. And now they're just going to pick them off at range, so that's a nice quick kill there. Hurricane Mark IV coming in for the kill onto the Panzergrenadier, and the Boston coming in for the 259. Is that going to hit on target? It didn't get the kill. Focke-Wulf 190 was brought in to try and take down the Hurricane or the Boston. Will it manage to do so? No. The Hurricane was left pretty low on health. An 88 shot might have finished the job, but didn't have chance to. This 81mm mortar here causing trouble. What's interesting here is Under the Sea still has a Panzerschreck. He hasn't really moved it forwards at the moment, but maybe he could hit this supply truck. That might actually be a nice kill for Under the Sea, because it's very unlikely that Herr Robert has too much supply on his hands. Panzergrenadier has been found in the middle, so the Indian rifles there trying to engage with the Gurkhas. Ooh, that rifle squad going down for free. Not good at all. Now, currently Under the Sea still, well, I say still, is once again sitting at the 13-11. It has been swinging backwards and forwards so much, but lovely interception from the Focke-Wulf 190. Beautiful stuff. I love the reaction here from Under the Sea. Bringing those in really, really fast to counteract the planes that Herr Robert's trying to use. The Sturm Pios going to be jumping or bumping into the Gurkha's rifles soon. Sturm Pios are moving, so they might go down pretty fast. Yep, they are gone. Actually a smart move by Herr Robert. I never really thought about that. Moving your infantry, I'm not sure if that was on purpose, but moving your infantry directly on top of the enemy flamer unit means that they can't actually use their flamethrower. So that might be just like a big brain play there. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, Panzerschreck here, sneaking across. Gurkhas are going to be brought back to try and deal with that, I think, and also an Indian rifle moving in there. Sherman 5 is going to go the opposite direction after seeing that cross. Well, I say that, the new order's bringing it right next to the Panzergrenadier once again. Boston comes in for the bombing strike here. That Panzergrenadier has really got Herr on his toes, that's for sure. And the Panzergrenadier's gone down. That's a shame. The Panzergrenadier didn't get any value there. Indian rifles in the open. One of them's gone down. One man remaining on his knees here. Probably going to get killed any second by the 88. Yep. Imagine catching an 88 round. That wouldn't be very fun, would it? So, 13 to 11 for Herr Robert. This is just swinging backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. I feel like Herr Robert has more stuff on the map right now, has more overall presence, but I think the longer that the game goes on, the more units that Underthesea is going to have that are going to give him value throughout the game, like Panthers, the Arados, that kind of thing. I guess the mortars here are pretty strong from Herr Robert in this sort of engagement because there's nothing to counter them, but they will eventually run out of ammo. So yeah, Herr Robert's going to have to start choosing where he's going to want to put these mortar strikes in order to get the most value out of them, because he's not going to have infinite numbers of mortar rounds. The Gurkhas are going to take that HE to the face. That is unfortunate. Sherman 5. Oh, look at it. It's pushing very aggressively. Going to come around the corner. Oh no! There's a Panther D! And then no chance that Sherman 5 is going to be able to take out that Panther. Sherman 5 goes down. Arado's coming in. Looking for the bombing strike onto the 17-pounder. Is flying over two of the Bofors. Very close, in fact. But I think it's going to get out alive. Oh, just about. Definitely very damaged. Did get the kill onto the 17-pounder though, and that's what matters. Lovely bombing strike there from Underthesea. So on the bottom side, IG and Panther D are continuing the engagement here and in support of the Panzergrenadiers that are pushing into the town. This is a pretty nasty combo. It's going to be really hard for Herr Robert to deal with. Herr Robert's going to have to bring in a 17-pounder that kills the Panther D, and then somehow avoid the IG from killing it. And the thing is, I'm not sure how Herr Robert's deck is built, but he may have a lack in 17-pounders for these Panthers and such. Well, that Boston getting nowhere close. And the Focke-Wulf, so quickly brought in here, is going to take down the Boston once again. Lovely use of those Focke-Wulfs from Underthesea. Just the reaction there to bring those fighters in at the right time is so good. Number 5. Getting some easy free shots onto the MG42 on the bottom side here. Bit unnecessary to be leaving that out in the open. But Underthesea likely hasn't noticed just yet. He's going to move his 259 out of the way at least after he notices that his MG went down. But yeah, once again, Herr Robert here has a huge blob of units. I'm surprised though that he's allowed Underthesea to contest this flag for so long though. Arado coming in again with the bombing strike. This is the bigger bomber. Oh, goodbye to the Indian Rifle leader and that Indian Rifle squad. Arado getting out completely scot-free. Hurricane Mark IV does get one of the infantry squads on his top side, but he's really got to solidify this flag and just use the numbers advantage that he has to his advantage. He does have mortars, so he can smoke off units like the IG and PaK-40. Even the Panthers and stuff he could smoke at range in order to use his units to support himself. Like, he can use Sherman 5s in support against enemy infantry if the Panthers smoked off, for example. We haven't seen any use of smoke just yet. Boston Mark IV coming in. Again, another bombing strike. Focke-Wulf straight out again from under the sea. That Boston did manage to kill one of the Sturm Pioneers. And it is going to get out alive this time around. Again, lovely reactions, but too much AA on this bottom side is going to stop the Focke-Wulf from getting the kill this time around. So yeah, I think the key for Herr Robert, maintain control of this flag on this top side, control this flag, and then take back the flag in the middle. That's going to push him to at least 13 to 11 in his favour, and then he can try and hold from that position with the numbers that he has. Because at the moment there's quite a lot of units maybe further back that aren't really doing much, like these Indian rifles. You've got the Vickers HMG here that's not doing anything, the Gurkhas here. And this map is kind of annoying in the town, because it's one of those towns that's similar to like Underthesea, where there's a lot of gaps in between the buildings, so support weapons like these 259s can do a lot of damage. But as I mentioned before, if he gets a Sherman 5 in, smokes off the support weapons from under the sea, he can use the Shermans to kill stuff like the 259s whilst his infantry pushes forwards. That could be a great way for him to do that. So the ACV actually moving up here. This is a very interesting, unique vehicle that is used by the Indians. It does have a Boys AT rifle, so it can kill light armor, like the 259. Be interested to see if that actually happens, though. Panzergrenadiers are making a little bit of a push on the bottom side here. I think what Herr Robert might be trying to do is just probe and find out where he can make ground. He has smoked off now the Pak 40, so that's good. But he's got to kind of do that when he's going to move infantry forwards to actually assault this flag. Because these two flags are actually quite easy for him to get, even if he's going to relinquish the centre. So I think the trouble with the centre right now is Herr Robert doesn't really have enough close-range infantry to deal with like the Sturm Pioneers, and that just means that whenever an Indian rifle bumps into them, he's giving like lots of value to Underthesea, because those Pioneers are going to be trading like 2 for 1, 3 for 1 before they actually go down to those larger squads, unless all of the larger squads engage at the same time. But we haven't really seen that yet, because it's really difficult for either player right now to amass a lot of infantry in the same place due to the low income that they are using. But yeah, the Sherman 5 has managed to move up here. I think Underthesea is trying to get this Pak 40 into line of sight of it in order to take it out. 88 is going to be engaging the Indian rifles. Pak 40 still not finding a line of sight. Is there a line of sight though? Yeah, looks like it. Pak 40 was going to fire, but the Sherman 5 backed off in time. Ooh, nice kill onto the IG there. Finally, the IG-33 goes down. That's actually pretty big for Herr Robert. But I think the Sherman just got sniped here by the 88. That's not good, unfortunately. So, game ebbs and flows, and currently we're back to 12 to 12. 37 minutes on the clock. Things are still all to play for. Herr Robert now the one with less tickets remaining. So it's really on him to try and get a better foothold in this game. Panther D does manage to get a free Indian rifle kill there. The reason I point those out is because they are pretty damn important at this point in the game. Nice thing for Underthesea on the bottom side here is that Herr Robert's being forced to have his infantry on return fire, because if he doesn't, then things like this IG and the 88 are going to be able to engage them from range, which is obviously something he doesn't want to do because they're not going to be able to fight back. But in this case, maybe allowing them to fire a little bit sooner would have been preferable, so that the transports or the units would have been destroyed in their transports before they unloaded. But Seems like they might be successful regardless. The Indian scouts, however, IG-33 shot on the way, and both of those Indian scouts going down on the bottom side there in quick succession. 15-9 in favour of Underthesea, as he does make another play on the top side here for this flag. And this must be just very frustrating for Herr Robert to deal with. It's part of the map that he probably feels that he should be able to easily control, but Underthesea has managed to continuously sneak infantry around and put pressure on that area. This Boston, whilst it didn't go down to the Focke-Wulf, might still go down to the AA if he's not too careful. Ooh, just about going to get out there, unless that last shot. Oh, that was close. It just got out in time. Anthony forced back on the bottom side for the time being. No more 17 pounders coming in, so I'm going to assume that Herr Robert has kind of run out of those. But nice job pushing back the Panzergrenadiers without losing too much infantry here. That's good. And there is a full supply truck, which means these 81mm mortars can be utilised to take out the IG-33s here quite easily. Bombing strike coming in. Ooh, that could have been placed a little bit better. Unfortunately, it did pin down the Indian rifles enough that Sturm Pioneers got pretty much a free surrender there. Not good news. The Indian rifles did manage to get a really nice flank onto this flag, but I think the Sturm Pioneer is going to be able to come back and clean up at least one of those. Bombing strike has also come in. That's going to pin down both of those Indian rifles. Did also pin down the Sturm Pioneers though, so whoever really recovers first will get the surrender on the other. Pioneer gets surrendered there, for example. This is what technically Herr Robert needs to do, is surrender these units that he doesn't have the ability to kill at close range himself. But Underthesea was actually the one to do that for him there. It was quite nice. Indian rifles do manage to just about kill that squad. And surprisingly, those Indian rifles survived a surrender from the Sturm Pioneers. So, yeah, Herr Robert really getting away with that and managing to secure a close range engagement with infantry that's in no way specialised for it. Pack 40, I think that's looking for a shot onto the Sherman 5, potentially. Sherman 5 is damaged there. If Underthesea can continue to kind of pick off the armour of Herr Robert, it just makes it very difficult for Herr Robert to keep pushing. Because Herr Robert needs that armour to be able to kill the armoured cars of Underthesea, and also potentially like the Stugs. And if at close range, you know, those Shermans can even be used to kill the Pack 40s and stuff, but you'd have to like smoke them off. So yeah, it's a very hard game to call right now because things are so kind of even for so late in the game, like 41 minutes. It's really up to, I think, Underthesea to use any close range infantry he has left, which it does seem he has quite a lot of, to get the advantage here against the Indian rifles. If he amasses Sturm Pioneers here, unless they get bombed or maybe mortared, he should be able to get a lot of work done onto these units. So you'll see here, Indian rifles go down very fast. A 2v1, the Sturm Pioneers didn't even take any losses. And with the Panzergrenadier providing the extra veterancy there, that's really big. Easy free kills for Underthesea in the close range engagement. IG-33 has been brought in, actually going to be moved all the way around to the top side. I think Underthesea was originally going to consider dropping it off down here, but still has the IG-33 out in the open, so is instead moving that up to the top side, which is fair enough. 81mm mortar, going to be looking for mortar strike onto these Panzergrenadiers. I just feel like it should be easy for Herr Robert to take this, but the Pack 40 is the main reason that he's not, because the Sherman 5 can't move forwards and engage the way he wants to at close range. Although that Pack 40 technically is out of HE shells, so any infantry should be able to push that freely. One of the Sturm Pioneers did go down there. It's one squad gone. If he can break the critical mass by taking out a couple of the Stern Pioneer squads, anytime that these Indian rifles manage to like bump into a Stern Pioneer all at once, they'll actually be able to kill them, so it's quite important. On the bottom side, Herr Robert is making a push with the Indian rifles. That bombing strike from the Hurricane, is it going to be enough? I don't know. Ooh, that's a lot of damage coming out of the Focke-Wulf. But it doesn't look like the Focke-Wulf's going to go down. Or sorry, the Hurricane's going to go down. The Focke-Wulf might. Yeah, nice. The Bofors there, getting the extra veterancy. There's two-star Bofors on the top side. Taking out those Focke-Wulfs is very nice because it allows those Hurricanes and bombers to have a lot more freedom throughout the game. Especially after the AA is eventually dealt with. So Herr Robert currently sitting on 14 to 10. But that's mainly due to these Indian rifles that are currently surrounded. Now it's back to 13-11. Pioneer and Stern Pioneer going to be pushing that back to 12 to 12, maybe even 13 to 11 in favour of Underthesea, as these Panzergrenadiers do take control of the flag on the top side of this town. Now it's interesting to see this map being played in 1v1. This variant of Tannenburg is not a variant that's been around for very long. So seeing it here in the tournament today, it's been pretty interesting. Seeing how the Indian rifles perform as well. I think in general the infantry has performed as expected. The Gurkha's rifles still not able to beat Stern Pioneers and Pioneers at close range, but Gurkha's rifles would beat, you know, for example, Panzergrenadiers at close range, maybe even the Panzergrenadiers with the MG26s, even though the MG26s can fire at close range, so they would have the suppression advantage. But I think the Thompsons of the Gurkhas would be enough to still win that. Pioneer, though, taking out an Indian rifle there, and I think this is the main problem that Herr Robert's going to continue to have throughout this game, is just Underthesea's close range infantry. Of all things in the game that would have won him the battle, it seems like Underthesea's close range infantry is going to be able to control the centre of the map here. And that's going to put pressure on quite a few flags surrounding this hill. Bottom side's just holding off Indian rifles here as they continue to push forwards. This IG-33 hasn't really been doing much. Like, it's scary for any infantry that come out in the open, but it doesn't really have good line of sight from that position. Boston Mark IV coming in with the bombing strike. Gonna pin down the Pioneers, didn't do any damage though. I think it'd be better to use that Boston whilst there's actually infantry already inside the trees. A nice engagement there on the top side. It looks like one of the Panzergrenadiers did go down before they unloaded. Sorry, that's like in the mid. And the two Indian rifles there against the Panzergrenadiers with MG26s. Boston did take out that Panzergrenadier on the bottom. It's both players making these pushes backwards and forwards. Just going to have to wait and see who can find that crucial break in their opponent. Underthesea currently sitting with a reasonably significant ticket lead over Herr Robert. Only 10 minutes left now until Herr Robert loses with a +1 tick. Panzergrenadiers did manage to escape the engagement against the Indian rifles here. The Stern Pioneers, not sure exactly what they're trying to achieve. If he gets too close to the edge of the tree line with the Stern Pioneers, he might allow them to die for free, which would be unfortunate. Because the Stern Pioneers, you know, they're 100-meter range engagement infantry. Not much else to it, really. The Pioneers can move to the edge because they do have the MG34, which is actually pretty decent at engaging units at range. And in this case, if he comes to the edge of this tree line, then he can actually spray down these mortars, which would be pretty nice. Take away a big tool from Herr Robert in the late game here. Indian rifles, looks like they're going to get the better of the Panzergrenadiers on the top side, and it's nice to see that Herr Robert has secured that place now. Pack 40, however, is trying to sneak around, and Underthesea throughout this game has been constantly moving these Pack 40s to try and find angles on the armour of Herr Robert. Must be very frustrating for Herr Robert to deal with. Pioneers now moving back. It looks like they are looking for the Indian rifles here, and will find them. 1v1, even with 4 men, the Sturm Pioneers should win, mainly due to the suppression from the flamethrower. They're going to be falling back. Can they get the pin? Nope, not in time. Looks like those Indian rifles are just going to be doing a runner for the time being. Boston coming in. Boston Mark IV. 88. Only has 4 HE shells left. Make that 3. Bombing strike still manages to get through onto the Panzergrenadiers. Will he manage to kill that squad? Nope. Down to 9 men. Actually survive relatively well. More Indian rifles on the way now. Robert really looking to take back this middle area. I'm not convinced that trying to play around the middle when he's seen so much close range infantry from Underthesea is really like the correct play. Like if he'd invested a lot of these Indian rifles into pushing onto like these 2 flags, for example, and maybe like flags further up, this is not so much a good place for him to push, but definitely on the bottom side. There's opportunity here for the mortars to pin and kill the IG-33 and the 88, and maybe smoke off like the Panther and stuff for the infantry to move forwards and just sit on these objectives, rather than invest so much of this infantry into unfavourable engagements. Let's go on to the 259 now. IG. Oh, it's going to find the 17 pounder there. Not good news for Herr Robert, although it is going to be able to fall back out of range of the IG. Or it fires again. It looks like Underthesea trying to reload his 88 has managed to get that fully stocked with HE rounds again. There's been so much airplay from Herr Robert that these 88s are really struggling for that HE. Also, they have been hammering the town. Still sitting on 13 to 11. Indian rifles coming in once again. This time it's a 5v1. And so he should be able to clean up the Sturm Pioneers quite nicely. Standard Pioneer here. That's going to be the next target. And it's moving, it's not throwing its HE. So it looks like actually Herr Robert's going to get a free kill there. Although I say that. On the bottom side, Hurricane's gone down. Focke-Wulf's looking for the Boston. Sherman also went down in the mid. Focke-Wulf coming around. Looking for the Boston kill. Herr Robert didn't actually evac his Boston in time yet. This might actually cost him the bomber. He'd be lucky to get away with that. I think he's just not realised. This bomber coming in. Why did that drop his bombs? I didn't even see. Boston goes down over there. Bit of a mistake from Herr Robert this late into the game, but we're now 51 minutes in. And currently, Herr Robert's sitting on the 13 to 11. So, Herr Robert's sitting in the driving seat for the time being. Although, the 17 pounder here, probably the only thing really stopping the armour dominance from Underthesea. Oh, let's see if this bombing strike does the job. That's a lot of Indian rifles. Oh, damn, that did a lot of damage. That's 2 squads down, 3 squads pinned. Underthesea did sacrifice one of his own units there as they get surrendered, but wow, that was a nice bombing strike. 17 pounder has been brought in on the bottom side, so it looks like he does have another one. I'm surprised I haven't seen the 17 pounder sooner. Oh, unlucky to bounce that shot. Now the 88 is being reloaded by the Opel Blitz. Would have been smart by Herr Robert to engage the Opel Blitz, but I think Herr Robert has the setting where he doesn't automatically engage the supply trucks with his units. So the 17-pounder just freely being shot at here, when if the 17-pounder had, when it stopped engaging the Panther D, engaged the Opel Blitz straight after, it would have pinned down the 88, potentially done quite a lot of damage, and also stopped the 88 from being replenished in the first place, which would mean it doesn't have the HE to engage any of this infantry or his 17-pounder. So that's really, really bad at the moment. He just needs to right-click that Opel Blitz and take it out, because it will stop that 88 from doing damage for the time being, because it will get pinned by the explosion. This 17-pounder, however, going to be brought in on the bottom side of the mid, looking to kill the Panther D there. Sherman 5 coming into the town on the top side. Yep, 17-pounder, too late, I think, for that. Unfortunate. I'm just waiting for the 88 to finish it off, but it hasn't yet. Wow! With that much, that was very, very low % chance there to hit that first shot, but does take out the transport. 17-pounder goes down though, and I feel like that was a massively missed opportunity there for Herr Robert. Now the Indian Rifles in the centre, starting to get overwhelmed by these Panzergrenadiers. The beauty of the Panzergrenadiers is they've got these two MG26s. The Indian Rifles can use their Brens at close range, but having two machine guns versus one there obviously lands in favour of the Panzergrenadiers. Assuming that it's 2v2, in this case 2v1 against those Panzergrenadiers. Sherman 5 does go down, but the Indian 17-pounder manages to trade. Boston gets a bombing strike on the bottom side. 259 manages to kill Indian Rifles out in the open, but the 17-pounder replies. Pioneer is moving down here to engage the 17-pounder. I think the IG more than enough to deal with the Indian Rifles, and just like that, Herr Robert surrenders. I assume what happened was he ran out of availability, so he gave up the game. Yeah, 55 minutes, 12 seconds. What a game that was. Look at the kill death here. 4,890 kills to 4,560 losses. Underthesea only slightly ahead on kills, which is why it was so even throughout that game. Crazy stuff. Really, really good use from Herr Robert, from the Hurricanes, and also the Bostons, particularly early on. But then Underthesea, nice counter with the Focke-Wulfs. Really good timing on those as well, making sure that he shot down plenty of those Bostons throughout the game. You can just see how much damage these were doing. That was actually quite a lot. The Indian Field Engineers early on was, I think, maybe a bit strange. I think bringing in the Indian Field Engineers later on with higher availability would have done Herr Robert a lot of favours, because it seemed like Underthesea just had so much more close-range infantry than he did, and it made it very difficult for him to find value. This 17-pounder though, two Panther Ds, two 259s, and the Stug 3. Very nice. That would have been on the top side, I presume. Don't believe I was really paying attention to that one. If we look at losses, the Arado did a decent job taking out the 17-pounders there. Stug 4 at the start really, really cut down on Herr Robert's armoured cars. That the Humber Mark 4s going down in the autocar. The IG-33s used really nicely to control the open ground from Underthesea. They didn't really fire too much or kill too much, but they certainly stopped Herr Robert from making plays into the open. But let's look at this Focke-Wulf. It took out Boston, Hurricane, Boston, Hurricane, Boston. There's 5 kills there for that Focke-Wulf. Lovely stuff. That 88 managing to kill the M3. But yeah, another Focke-Wulf there, getting another Hurricane and another Boston. So that is 4 Bostons and 3 Hurricanes taken out. Herr Robert must have really stacked that air. Pack 40, getting a couple Sherman 5s. I think the Sherman 5s were used quite liberally throughout this game. But look at the value from the Sturm Pioneer there, getting 3 Indian Rifle kills. Schwiddenzug getting the Indian Rifle kills. MG26 is getting into rifles. That IG-33, that one actually got quite a lot of kills. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the close range infantry engagement there is really what kind of cost Herr Robert in this game, because he just ran out of infantry availability, and at the end there he just threw everything at Underthesea. It didn't pay off, and so he gave up the game. So that's it. Yeah, Underthesea takes game 1 of this best of 3. Herr Robert still a chance to get back into it in game 2. We'll have to wait and see if he can do it. That's it for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.